What's up, guys? Let's take a look at the Nasdaq. Let's see what has happened here. So you look on the daily here. We didn't quite hit my target yet. We look like we actually could be getting a little bit of a bounce here. So I'm curious to see how this is going to play out. The RSI on the daily is almost reset. Let's look at the weekly real quick on the RSI. We're not quite set, but it doesn't have to it doesn't have to come all the way down here, in my opinion. But we'll see how it plays out, right? Looking at it like this right now, we have bullish divergence if we get a bounce here. This right here was the low where we had bullish divergence W right here, right? Higher on the right, lower on the left. On the RSI down below, lower on the right, higher on the left. So we could look for something potentially like that to occur, which would mean we would get a nice little bounce, because look right here. Let's see what happened. Date and price, right? Date and price range. So from here to here, we dropped 14%, okay? And then what did we do after that? We ran up from here to here, 11%, almost 10%. And then we got rejected at that trend line there. And then we dropped 10%. But then what did we do? We ran up from here to here, 26, 27%. So where are we at right now? We dropped, so far, a total of 12%. If we, in fact, get a bounce here, we could run up. Say we get a bounce, we open the candle right here. We come up to retest this here. We could run 9%, get rejected at that trend line, and then we could drop. From, say this following week, we could drop 7 or 8% back to this 21 EMA, or we could double bottom down here, 11%, right? And then what if we continued doing what we've been doing? If we bounced here on the following week after that, and we ran up, we could run up all the way up here. If we ran up the same as prior, 22%. Could get back up on this trend line here potentially, right? Or we could just trend underneath it and still run up 15, 16%, depending on how it works out. I mean, this pattern here is played out. It could run up here, then get a breakout of this, right? It could, which would bring us up even higher. Or it could just run up, get rejected, run up, flag out underneath, maybe create another rising wedge or something. There's no way to say right now what it's going to do. If it's going to make a new pattern, if it's going to do something different, we don't know. But what we do know for now is if we get rid of these, we get rid of all this, right? And we go off of this smaller pattern here. We go from here to this breakout point off of this highest wick. Let me make sure it lines up perfectly, touching with that. And then we go maybe off of these two wicks here. And we do something like that. What do we have? A big pennant here based off of this wick and this wick here that it came up to. And when it finally broke this trend line here, we took off. So what are we doing? Potentially, we're coming back down here to retest this pattern support here, which we almost touched, which we still could come down a little bit lower if we wanted to. What was the breakout of this pennant? The breakout of this pennant here was almost perfect, right? 13,833. 14,000 was the breakout target. So we could come back down here and create a new pennant. And this is just speculation, because there's nothing telling me what, but this could be just a falling wedge, or we could create something different here in this pattern, depending on where we get resistance. If we do run up here, if we get rejected there, then we're going to know what we have to go off of. And if we did something like that, then we could be creating another pennant that we would break out of, potentially, back up here to this 14,000 mark that we seem to like. But we're definitely going to keep this in mind here, that right now, this is our resistance. And as of right now, this is our support. Okay? Same with prior. This was our resistance. This was our support. So we're going to have to wait and see how this plays out, of course. We don't know how it's going to what's going to happen, how it's going to play out. I mean, this was something that happened prior to, that we had this kind of, let's see. This was something we had prior, and we broke out of this here. And we broke out. Okay. A little bit higher target. That's why I always take my profits sooner, because you never know. Look at this. 97 had a target of 99. So we came back down to retest this. We failed. We came down here, got a bounce, ran all the way up. So this is kind of where we are right now again. Broke out, got rejected. Are we going to come all the way back down here? Are we going to come all the way back down here? Or are we going to get a bounce and go sideways in here? That's where we have to watch for right now. So let's look at the daily here. We still have a death cross that's coming in here on the daily. So we could get a bounce here, right? I like that we held and closed a weekly close above the 21-week EMA. We could get a bounce here, come back up and test this 13,100. Get rejected, fall back down on this death cross, which could bring us down lower. Or we could trade sideways in here as this crosses and takes time to roll back up, which inevitably resets the RSI here. There's no way to tell just yet, so we have to keep everything in mind here. But I did still have a breakdown target of this 10,000 below this line here, but this would be support if we fell, I would assume. Right, 10,000 is like pretty close to down in this area here. But as of right now, I feel like we could get a nice bounce, but we could get a further push after if this death cross decides to come in. It could, however, fake everyone out and roll, which does happen occasionally. Tomorrow's probably going to be pretty damn close to deciding what happens next. With the stimulus news and everything, you never know. As of right now, though, we got a very big bounce off of this support box, and it looks like we could be heading up here to 12,900 before maybe getting another rejection and potentially either coming lower here or getting another bounce off of this level, which could be a nice double bottom here. Let's see if it hit the breakdown target on the smaller time frame here of this head and shoulders pattern. So this right here was our neckline of our head and shoulders. So we broke down from the neckline, which the target was roughly, I mean, I could go off of that there. The breakdown of that neckline still shows we could go lower. So we'll have to see how it goes, but I do like the bounce we got. 11,800, what we talked about. Right now, we're getting rejected at this neckline. Resistance, perfectly. So if we can get back above here, 12,700, get an hourly close above, this could actually turn into something a little bit better, where we flag out here before maybe going higher, or we get rejected here, come back down for another swoop, and then come back up. You know what I mean? There's many, many things that can happen here. I'm trying to look and see if I could see anything else beyond what we have that could be. Yeah, there's not much I can go by right now. So there's obviously this resistance here that needs to be looked at of this trading channel, which maybe we'll try to get back up in. Maybe we can get a breakout of. We'll have to see. But as of now, that's kind of where we're at. But I am looking for either this was our bounce and we come back down, or we break up here, get resistance at 13, and then come back down here. It's a little bit too soon to say, but obviously you can see here that this on the hourly looks like a left shoulder, a head, maybe a right shoulder, maybe. Or we round over, double bottom, and come up. So we definitely have to see what's going to go on here. On the 15-minute here, we're getting very overextended here, so it does look like, even though we're getting this nice golden cross here, could come back down here, retest this 12.5, then come up. We could come back down, test this 12. Oh, that is 12.5. 12.468, or we could come back down here. We have to wait and see what happens. But obviously, as of right now, if we come up higher here, we'll have to see. If we don't come up higher than this here, which is 13,300, we're going to have bearish divergence on, this is on a 15-minute anyway, but let's see the hourly. All right, so if we don't come back up above this 13,300, we would end up with most likely some bearish divergence here if we can't come up above this peak on the price action. The RSI can come above, but if the price action doesn't, then we'll have bearish divergence and head down lower. So we're gonna have to see. It could be a good, nice green day, midday or in the morning, and then followed by red midday. Or we could have a nice green day overall, followed by more red the following day, which would lead to a nice green day on Wednesday, which is right when the stimulus is supposed to get passed here. So that's kind of what we're looking for, something like that to occur. Of course, you can get W's and still fail, because we had a W here, but that actually created a right shoulder. Now we don't have any signs of any head and shoulders pattern. If this is going to, in fact, be the bottom here, maybe we'll come up and create an inverse head and shoulders, or come up, create a shoulder there. There's a couple different ways that this can happen, but for now, I am still bullish on the fact that we closed. I was actually jumping for joy the fact that we closed above 12,630. So that to me was a good sign. Why? Because in the past here, when we closed a weekly close below this yellow line, we had a lot more downside. And we went over this before. Okay. When we closed a big candle like that below the weekly, we had a lot of downside. So now, where we are right now, so far, we bought up above this trend line here, and we didn't close below it. So, I still expect potentially another red week, because if you see here, most of the time you get 3 red weeks before a bounce. So we could get one more red week here. So we don't want to get too excited. But there's obviously, nothing has to rhyme exactly. Nothing has to work out exactly the same as it did in the past. It can rhyme, but that's it. But you also notice we like to test this 200-week EMA, and that on the downside is way down here. But like I said, until we close below this 21-week, we don't have anything to worry about. So I think that a lot of stuff's going to get a nice bounce, and that's kind of where I'm at right here. This is a 4-hour. We got a nice bounce here. We really want to get above this RSI right here. If we can get above here, that'll be very, very good. Most likely, that's going to be somewhere around 12,700 area. And it could come up as high as 12,900. But the key thing to get above is the 13,300, in my opinion. So we're going to have to see. But as of right now, it does look good for a nice bounce. As long as this MACD continues to curve up, this RSI continues to curve up, and we get a nice juicy green fat candle here on the 4-hour. Okay, so that's where we want to see, because right here you can see, although we didn't close above these priors, the sellers pushed us all the way down, and the buyers bought us all the way back up above this support. And then we opened a candle above. I can't see volume on this, but we could almost be done here. So just keep that in mind. Even if we do something like that, it's still good. We're getting very close to being done with this correction, though, thankfully. All right, and I was talking about potential of, what did I say? I don't remember if I said 10 to 15%, but we're right at 12%. So we could come down a little bit lower, but I think that we're going to catch a lot of support right here where we caught prior, and we could catch a lot of support here at 12,000, roughly even, if we do continue down further because of this death cross. So keep all of that in mind, but we're very, very close, in my opinion, to starting to see some buying back here, which should be do very good for our stocks here. It just depends on how this works out. All right, so that's all I got.